mining industry as a whole is so exciting. Your mining's been going on for decades, and the people have done operators have done things the same for quite a long time. But with all the pressures around sustainability and ESG and the energy transition, it's such an exciting place to be because there's new technologies being implemented and new roles and new job titles.
It's fascinating to see the things that are coming through at the moment, and the people that are coming through, and the young people coming through that are actually really excited about this transition piece as well. The key role that mining plays in that, and the sustainable ways that mining is really pushing forward. It is fascinating. And the technology that is the forefront of that, wildly beyond belief.
You have a look at the different projects and the different clients that operate in Australia. You've got everything from copper, cobalt, nickel, zinc, all of these variety of projects. But then on top of that, in terms of the sustainability approach or initiatives that are going ahead, you're also getting this tap on from big solar projects, and you've just got this a whole variety of this blend of sectors all coming together, and it's super exciting.
Australia's mining industry is a centuries-old legacy that has shaped global markets, fueled economic growth, and driven technological advancements worldwide. From precious metals to fuels, construction materials to tech components, Australia's booming mining industry has always seen high demand and continues to grow and develop. Fueling this growth sustainably brings its own challenges. Operators and companies are under increasing pressure to change their entire production chain to be more sustainable and reduce their environmental impact. Demand and growth are driving a growing need for a skilled and experienced workforce and encouraging new engineers to join at one of the most exciting times in Australia's mining history. In this episode of Engineering Pro, we're chatting with Brie Anderssen, Recruitment Manager, Byron Silver, Regional Development Manager, and David Stead, Operations Director, about the exciting developments in the Australian mining industry. We'll cover the trends in the industry, the skills and experience companies are looking for, and where they're looking. We'll also look at how sustainability and green initiatives impact the mining industry, and the changes happening to meet carbon reduction objectives in the country.
To get us started then, so Brie, if you just want to introduce yourself and your role.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brie Anderssen, Recruitment Manager. I manage the mining division for Queensland.
Thank you. Byron?
Byron Silver, Regional Business Development Manager, and I'm the Asia Pacific Mining Sector Lead.
Thank you. And Dave?
I'm Dave Stead, Operations Director for Western Australia. Been with the business for 3 years.
We'll start off today, obviously we're talking about the Australian mining industry and recruitment and some of the work that you're doing in the Australian offices to support that industry. So the first question that we've got today for the team is, what trends are you seeing in the Australian mining industry and how are they impacting recruitment?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick us off. We're definitely starting to see a larger and growing focus on sustainable mining practices. So a lot more operators are putting up more focus on environmental conservation, reducing their carbon footprints. There's a lot of projects around carbon capture and decarbonisation. And obviously with the operators, there's quite a variety of different stakeholders. So ESG considerations are becoming very, very much key for all the businesses. Stakeholders are demanding higher standards.
And then I'll probably just add to that as well in terms of, from a recruitment front, some of the obvious trends that we have seen is that, commodity prices have obviously shifted to what they were, a couple of years ago. And it's definitely an impact that we're seeing from a hiring point of view or perspective as well. Just to name a few, obviously, you're having a look at the price of lithium to the record highs that it had in 2021, all the way, where it's, peaked at, late 2022. Also a bit of a fluctuation in iron ore, and then obviously some of the more recent fluctuation in the pricing of nickel. And in terms of what that's kind of done for us, or what we've seen within the business over the last few years, is that companies were in such a great financial position for a period of time that we're really seeing quite a go on a whole lot of these greenfield projects that were pipelined for a variety of commodities and a variety of clients. So that's kind of almost stalled somewhat, where we have a much more tentative market as a result of that recent change in commodity prices. And then that also almost, you put that into the stirring pot of post-COVID era where, it really was this candidate shortage market where everyone was kind of pulling from the same pool, specifically here in Australia. We're seeing that that's definitely softened over the last, I would definitely say the last 12 months.
Yeah, I'd probably add in on Dave's point there as well in terms of the ESG. That is a huge component and really scrutinized in the industry at the moment. And I guess the trends that I'm seeing over on the east is that transition from coal to battery metals in terms of flavor of the month when it comes to greenfield projects and studies projects and I guess new work coming through. The coal industry is as essential as it is, and it's going to be here for some time. A lot of the work that's being done in that space is a lot of maintenance and reliability and asset integrity, whereas we're seeing a lot of the battery metals, so your lithiums and your copper, really making a forefront in terms of exploration activities. There's a lot of companies coming to Queensland and a lot of, I guess, big projects being really started up in terms of exploring what they can do in pushing through that copper into the rest of the industry.
Okay, cool. Thank you. As a result of that, are you seeing a shift in the projects that are coming up? So are you seeing changes in the types of projects, the materials that are being mined? Is that shifting, or is it kind of staying quite balanced?
Yeah, no, it's definitely shifting. The That energy transition piece is hugely on the table at the moment, industry wide. So the development of renewable energies and battery storages and battery in general, you're finding that those sorts of rare earth metals that are coming through are where the industry is really shifting to because of the demand for them. So all of the automation and electrification of fleet and everything like that is really driving that push to ensure that we've got enough copper in the world and enough lithium in the world to I guess push those different projects forward.
Yeah, and also just adding to that as well is that we still take a snapshot of the Australian market over the last, say, 7 years. Year on year, on average, it's still experiencing 10% growth as a sector, right? So commodity prices were high, and there obviously is a shift towards this more sustainable practices and energy transition, and how that kind of bolt onto the mining industry nationally. But one of the things that we've got to highlight is that there's still over 600 projects nationally, that are geared to be kicking off in the next 6 months. With a capex expenditure looking plus $30 billion. So yes, things have slowed down, and yes, there's a shift in the practices and how things are being done, but it's still a very attractive market.
I agree. It is still a very attractive market. We've obviously do have some headwinds across Australia as well. With the influx of, competition, especially around critical minerals from the rest of the world. So Australia's got to, get the economies of scale right and, improve some efficiencies on getting new projects out the ground. Obviously, I'm not a political commentator or anything like that, but there's definitely some challenges in the industry. We're lucky to be in a country that's so rich in all these different commodities.
Absolutely.
So it's a fantastic place to work and to operate, but we definitely do have some challenges as well.
Brilliant, thank you. So with these projects and with the industry being where it is, just thinking about the kind of the specific skills, what are the skills that you're seeing that are high demand from these clients in these projects at the moment?
Well, for us at the moment, just what we're experiencing locally in Western Australia, with a big drive for electrification, of mining fleets, of, rail and marine, we've got a huge demand for electrical trades and electrical engineering disciplines at the moment. It's quite hard to keep up.
Yeah, I'd say the same in the East. A lot of the work that's coming through in the East is really around, like I said before, the electrification, the automation of different fleets and different projects that are coming through. So your control systems engineers, your electrical engineers, your reliability engineers, they're all huge demand at the moment. But you're also finding, I think, in the East, and I'm not sure if it's the same in the West, guys, that a lot of those exploration projects that are happening and all of the energy transition work that is going on, it's the front end stuff as well. It's the designers and the drafters that are quite in demand as well. You're finding that a lot of the young talent coming through are moving straight into engineering rather than design. So big skill demand for qualified and experienced designers as well.
You guys could probably comment better on this than I could, but in terms of the automation initiatives that are going ahead for these companies, what would your commentary be around, say, a lot of these IT or software or automation type trades that are I guess in the headlights at the moment or in the spotlight?
Yeah, you're 100% right, Byron. Technology is at the forefront, and that's something that's really big as well. And we should definitely touch on that. A lot of these automation works and a lot of the front end loading of these projects is all around the technology that's coming through, and it's coming through at such a fast pace that even the engineers are struggling to keep up with the way things are moving. So finding people that have the sort of experience that they need in those emerging technologies is quite difficult to find as well. But in saying that, it's also lucrative to these engineers because that's what gets them out of bed in the morning. It's that new innovation. It's that excitement of finding these new technologies to implement into automation works and electrification.
Absolutely, I'm seeing a lot of obviously a greater demand for data led, skill sets. Obviously, data analysts. I'm also seeing a lot of, funny enough, engineers looking to kind of pivot their careers as well, and upskill themselves in data, and doing a variety of different courses and training. So, with all these technological advancements, it's all driven by data. It's got to start somewhere. So that's definitely an area to watch out for.
Brilliant, cool, thank you. So obviously we've covered there that there's need for skills across Australia in a number of different industries, and there are a lot of opportunities. So just thinking about not necessarily just our clients, but companies and businesses in general, what are some of the strategies that you're seeing them implement to try and tackle the skill shortage in mining?
Seeing a lot of companies obviously still invest heavily at grassroots level. So going out, talking to schools, engaging with students that are still studying STEM subjects. A lot of our clients are already quite well on their journey on retraining and redeploying and upskilling a lot of their staff. So in-house training centres and GTOs are being established, which is fantastic investment. Examples of, for example, major iron ore players that are reskilling their dump truck operators into be able to operate these autonomous fleets remotely from in Perth. So in-house training is definitely a flavour of the month at the moment, and still a lot of investment needs to happen.
You're finding that a lot of companies as well are implementing a lot of post-COVID work from home, hybrid working, remote working strategies that are allowing us to access candidates that they normally wouldn't be able to access. So where there might be a remote mine site in the middle of the Northern Territory where before COVID they would have to have FIFO'd there regardless of any excuses. Now, they might be able to access somebody down in Perth or in Brisbane to do the work remotely, and potentially just have some sort of hybrid arrangement. So we're seeing a lot of that as well, and that's really lucrative on the market. And that extends then towards globally as well. We've got people working for Australia, in Australia for PNG companies. We've got people working over in Houston for Australian companies, in Canada for Indonesian companies. So I think the ability to mobilize globally, but also be able to offer that remote working, that hybrid, is really important as well. And a lot more companies are getting on board with it.
Look, in what we're seeing, obviously, a fair few more conversations happening around that global mobility piece as well, in terms of bringing skill set in country. But that obviously has a lot of challenges in its own right. But we're definitely seeing an increase in companies willing to engage in those conversations and see what options are to bring more skilled workers in country.
Okay. And that kind of leads us into the next question a little bit, where we've already talked about that a little bit. But what are the kind of, in terms of getting that additional talent through global mobility into Australia, what are the kind of challenges that brings?
I think Australia is unique at the moment in terms of, look, we've got a massive housing shortage. Dave and Brie are 100% right. We're having these global mobility conversations more and more and more, because I think it is becoming a widely used method of tackling that skill shortage specific to particular skills. But the issue is that it's difficult to house everyone that's coming in. Just on the influx of people that are coming into both. I saw the other day, for example, Queensland is one of the highest or the highest locations of interest or where people are moving within Australia, and we just have a housing shortage. There's not enough housing for everyone coming in. So, at the forefront of all of these conversations that we're having with our clients when we talk about global mobility, especially if it's, maybe short term, and what I mean by that is probably within 12 months or so, we say, what is your solution around that housing or placing these people once they arrive? Because this isn't an issue that's just being tackled by companies trying to bring in people, on a global mobility type situational recruitment perspective, but this is an issue nationally, right? And I don't know what the answer is, but without a doubt, I think that's probably one of the biggest issues that we are having when it comes to global mobility.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, are you seeing some clients move towards? I know historically quite a lot of clients will do this with remote sites, where they will have for short-term contractors temporary accommodation, or are they finding that contractors who are coming across, even for maybe a 12-month period, are asking and requesting proper accommodation, so somewhere within cities to stay and commute?
Yeah, Matt, the problem is that obviously Australia has got a very healthy and well-established fly-in, fly-out working environment, right? Where a lot of the sites that people would be required to work at have got great accommodation. That's not the issue, so to speak, right? Maybe for some of the new sites that are being developed, but that's fine. That non-process infrastructure can be built, etc., etc. It's more along the lines of, where do you house these people if they are working in the city, right? Or if they are working in an office environment, or even if they are doing FIFO, where do they go when they return, right? So is it that their local countries are close enough that they're flying out of country? Which most of the time it's probably not, given the isolation of Australia and where some of these work environments are. It's more along the lines of, where do they house them in the capital cities when they're not working?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's if you can answer and solve that challenge, you'll be everybody's best friend.
Yeah.
We're lucky that we've obviously got some good providers that we work with that help us, but they're not magicians who can't just magic up new housing. Going back to the skill shortage question, I mean, there's a huge shortage of construction workers just to build new housing. So it's a bit of a compounding issue at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely adds to it, doesn't it? But look, I mean, in saying that, I think that we will be talking about another issue around global mobility that's probably a bit more pressing in the future, because it will settle. There's obviously investment that's going ahead now, and the government has pretty strong initiatives in order to increase the number of houses that are available within the country. But I don't think it's going to be solved anytime soon.
No, not on top of obviously the local demand and local requirement as well. You've got to think of that first, really, haven't they? So there is that
That's
challenge.
right.
So yeah, great answers. Thank you for those. So changing direction a little bit and just focusing on the clients and the companies themselves in trying to attract this talent, with the environment being as competitive as it is and the skills demand so high. How can companies differentiate themselves What do candidates say they're looking for in their next roles?
I think Brie touched on it perfectly before when, we're definitely working in an environment now, or, we're seeing that in the recruitment environment, companies are making, uh, you their position or their companies a lot more attractive with a healthy work-life balance. Year in and year out, we're seeing this shift to a more, and I don't know if I'm wording myself correctly, but it's almost becoming
It's the
not
flexibility.
yeah, but like it's
It's
becoming
the
more
flexibility.
acceptable, I guess, across. I mean, you look at like some of the tier one mining organisations that we're working with at the moment, and this was actually only raised just the other day when I was talking to a candidate who was at another tier one mining organisation, where the initial company had increased their parental leave to 6 months. These are becoming standardised type incentives for people to join those companies, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree with you, Byron. It's not necessarily just pay them more salary. Companies are quite well equipped to pay decent salaries in Australia. That's not the issue. It's the flexibility. It's the incentives that's attached. It's the ability to go to your child's dance recital if necessary. It's the ability to have access to healthcare when you need it. It's smaller things like the being able to do week on, week off, or potentially 1 week a month on site, and the rest at home if it is a fly in, fly out position, or if it is a hybrid working position. To have that healthy balance between family and work, which we became really accustomed to during COVID, and people don't want to let that go. And we're seeing more and more large players in the market, tier one companies, really come to the party with that. And as a result, the smaller companies, the tier twos and tier threes, are following suit as well, because if they don't have it, then they're not going to have access to the talent in the market that would otherwise go to a tier one.
Yeah, it's like there's a current advert that's kind of popping up quite recently in Australia, and I forget the company that it's associated to, but pretty much the catchphrase is something along the lines of, your career progression is is the most important thing until it's not, right? And it's actually perfectly said, because having a family, it is obviously at the forefront of any decision making that we do as adults or parents or whatever the case is. But also that stage of our lives, people have got experience. People have got what clients are looking for in terms of potential candidates, for their business. And if they're not attracting or maintaining those people with that experience, they're going to lose them. And unfortunately, people now are immensely attracted to somewhere where they've got that balance, where they can still make sure their priorities are where they should be.
No, I agree with your comments. The only thing I would add is, especially in the mining space, there's a growing, call for companies to be seen to be doing the right thing. So with the whole energy transition and bigger focus on sustainable practices and everything, candidates want to know that the employer that they're going to is doing the right thing, for the environment and the social communities as well.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that's echoed in every industry we work in, across the globe. Is the green initiatives and meeting net zero, and the priorities, certainly of newer people coming into the industry, has changed a little bit in terms of the priorities they see. Like you talked about, the pandemic shifted expectations of work, and now, like I say, climate action has shifted things again, and that's something I think everyone across the globe or every company across the globe is acutely aware of. So just thinking about that in terms of Australia, and the clients you work with, how's that kind of mindset impacting the types of roles you're recruiting for from a client perspective? Have they changed some of their practices that mean that new skills, or skills that weren't particularly, maybe didn't exist 5 years ago? Is there anything new that's coming to the fore that clients are looking for now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that ESG being the highly scrutinized in the industry, like we touched on earlier on, is really allowing those projects that probably weren't higher priority before become a priority. So those all those projects around the energy transition and looking at more sustainable ways of doing things, whereas potentially before it was about getting as much ore out of the ground and making the company as much profit as possible, now is shifting slightly towards how can we do this in a better way, as opposed to just getting as much as possible. So there was a interesting article coming through around the ability to electrify the whole underground mining fleet, and how that would stack up against a diesel powered mining fleet, and these types of projects are the ones that are being actually given limelight now. So the types of people that are coming through are the types of people that are innovative in their thinking, your electrical engineers and your automation engineers that are able to really be able to impact the industry in a way that they wouldn't have before. So when Dave was talking about all of your automation works and your electrification works, like that sort of stuff, it was a priority before, but it was down on the list. Now it's really at the top that I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's made our jobs are really really interesting, because a lot of the way roles are worded and job titles have changed over the last few years. There's also a whole new skill set that wasn't there, 5, 6 years ago. So it's be able to have the conversations with both candidates and clients, and finding those the similar skill sets and transferable skill sets, and how they can fit into the roles in terms of how they're being advertised at the moment. Those conversations are really interesting at the moment, and it's where we can have quite a big impact.
Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, I think we've covered a lot of really interesting things in the podcast today. A lot of really interesting points about where Australia is currently and where it's looking. So the last question I've got really today to talk about is looking forward. What does the future hold from your perspectives for the mining industry in Australia? And what advice would you give businesses looking to optimize their talent strategies for this changing environment?
Yeah, if I can kick this off, is I think it was perfectly said the other day when I was having a discussion with one of our regional solutions managers, right? And please jump in and comment, Brie or Dave, if you disagree or see otherwise. But Australia seems to be, in terms of the mining sector, right, seems to be very much so at its first generation in terms of solutions. And if you're talking about optimization, I think at the forefront that kind of jumps to my mind is those MSP type style solutions, right? I don't think that there's really much understanding as to what the benefits to some of the companies operating within the mining sector of what sort of solutions could be put in place to really optimize their talent acquisition strategies. And it goes far much more than just costs, which are probably at the forefront of most of those decisions at the moment, given the current commodity prices. But these types of solutions really are, I think what's misunderstood is how scalable that they are, and actually how much improvement you can actually have in that supplier function. Not to mention some of the risk mitigation that can be implemented as a result. Just touching back on one of the points that I just said before in terms of those specialist suppliers, and I guess maybe that's probably one of our biggest selling points, right? Is the fact that us as the white collar specialists in terms of recruitment that we are globally, but one of the biggest value adds that we push forward for our clients is that we generally are that we really are specialists in terms of those recruitment structures that our consultants operate in. Now, if you throw that sort of style into an MSP type solution, I don't think companies are aware that they can pick and choose the types of suppliers that they have available to them. It is a strategic approach to building up some of their perceived talent that they might need moving forward. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest areas of improvement, and perhaps maybe education that needs to kind of go ahead within the sector at the moment, in terms of optimization for some of the talent acquisition strategies that these companies currently have in place. I think that they really are quite set on maybe more of an archaic model where you've got multiple people within the organization that are recruiting across a plethora of different categories, and that sort of bolt-on support would be based on pricing or where there's existing relationships with some companies. But it's definitely starting to shift and starting to change.
You were spot on just then, Byron, in terms of relationships as well. I think one thing that is going to be very prevalent in the future is the partnerships that come into play. There are a lot of organizations out there that do what we do, and there's a lot of organizations that do it well. I think one thing about NES Furcroft is the scalability, like you said, of us being able to do what we do on a large scale, but also on a small scale, and to be able to actually partner with our clients as opposed to just being transactional, which a lot of agencies and a lot of consultancies that do what we do seem to be. Whereas I think NES Furcroft differentiate, and the mining industry in particular appreciates, is the fact that we come as a partner and we can provide a range of solutions to our clients that enable them to get the best that they can out of the market, in terms of talent, obviously, but also their technology, the systems that they use, the payroll services that they use, all of the things that come with being able to utilize their talent strategies in the best way and save their companies as much money as they possibly can, as well, in line with being able to access the talent that they probably wouldn't be able to access if they couldn't partner with a company on a global basis like ours, is where I would probably see it.
And obviously it's quite easy for us, because we all have a sales function as part of our role as well, to plug that value add as a business, right? But going back to all of the questions that we've previously spoken about, okay, it's all about the development and the improvements that's taking place across the sector, right? Whether that be energy transition or whatever else, right? It's moving. It's always constantly moving. And I think that from a strategic point of view, in terms of talent acquisition, regardless of the plugs that we've just mentioned before, specific to NES Furcroft, there needs to be, or there is going to be, a re-education piece on how people are strategizing for bringing in their talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just echoing those points. The mining industry is incredibly resilient. There's obviously always going to be some challenges with fluctuating commodity prices. We're obviously, unfortunately, seeing some mines going to care and maintenance, for example, in the nickel industry at the moment. But personally, having been in the industry for a good number of years now, relationships are key. Understanding organizations, especially in I suppose the downtimes, when they don't need talent, and they don't need active recruitment partners at the moment, and really getting down to that deep understanding and those deep relationships. That's what really makes a big impact. When they're, especially at the moment, when we still just a shade over 4% unemployment, so still a very tight candidate market. And what differentiates us and everyone else in our industry is that understanding and those relationships.
Agreed.
Brilliant, thank you. So before we wrap up today, are there any other key points that you wanted to share as part of what we've discussed today? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Just that the mining industry as a whole is so exciting. With all the the points and topics we've just spoken about. It's an exciting place to be. Mining's been going on for decades. And operators have done things the same for quite a long time. But with all the pressures around sustainability and ESG and the energy transition, it's such an exciting place to be, because there's new technologies being implemented and new roles and new job titles. new mines being opened up all the time, and the whole electrification piece. It's brand new. It's exciting.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to work in any other industry personally.
Oh, 100% agree with you, Dave. It's fascinating to see the things that are coming through at the moment, and the people that are coming through, and the young people coming through that are actually really excited about this transition piece as well. It went through a little flux there for a while where, renewable energies is definitely something that is forefront of the world. But the key role that mining plays in that, and the sustainable ways that mining is really pushing forward, it is fascinating. And the technology that is the forefront of that is wildly beyond belief. So yeah, like you said, it's really exciting to watch where it's going at the moment.
Yeah, and just to echo those sentiments as well, I think we're quite fortunate that Australia is quite unique in the fact that if I'm just talking about the renewables aspects, we've got everything from offshore wind projects, onshore wind, solar, hydro, all of these types of available projects to be kicked off in this country with such a unique landscape that allows for some of these processes to go ahead. The wonderful thing is you're seeing this blend and crossover into different sectors, right? So Dave touched on it perfectly when you're saying, it is exciting, right? You just have a look at the different projects and the different clients that operate in Australia. You've got everything from copper, cobalt, nickel, zinc, all of these variety of projects. But then on top of that, in terms of the sustainability approach or initiatives that are going ahead, you're also getting this tap on from, big solar projects and standalone power systems. I mean, there's a new project that's up and running in Australia that's due for release this year or kicking off, where it's a gold mine that's going to be completely bolted on and supported by hydroelectric capabilities as well. I mean, these are things that never seen before really or heard much of, and you've just got this a whole variety of this blend of sectors all coming together, and it's super exciting.
Yep, absolutely. And the work that's going on in that autonomous space, we've got mines going in down south that are, possibly 3 years away from even being built, and yet the strategies that they've got in place of being able to make those mines so autonomous and really access all of the electrification that's coming through as well, and as well as the technology and the ability to I guess drive this through with all of your AI and generated things that are coming through as well. It's beyond belief, and it's things there that even just a decade ago nobody would have even thought of. So it's driving forward at such an accelerated pace, like within 3 years when this mine is being built, like who knows what it's going to look like, but it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, AI and electrification of equipment and automation, that's something that we haven't had time to talk about. And that's a whole sphere of a topic in itself, isn't it? Of how much it's changed in less than a year in some ways.
Less than a year.
and how much that could be changing in the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a good place to end for today. So Brie, Byron, Dave, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
This has been Engineering Pro with me, Matt Nicholson, Brie Anderssen, Byron Silver, and David Stead on the innovations and key trends in the Australian mining industry. If you'd like to learn more about the opportunities in a dynamic and fast-paced role, or learn more about what an exciting career in the industry means, please visit our website at www.nesfurcroft.com. Thanks for tuning in.